This is the Nightwolf howling at you, and today we're going to take a look at the DC Multiverse Catwoman figure. This version of Catwoman is based on the 1993 comic book Catwoman, which debuted this version of her costume and remained her costume for pretty much the rest of the 90s. I would guess that it was also somewhat inspired by the Batman the Animated Series version of Catwoman that originally came out, where she was wearing a similar costume, but it was gray instead of purple, and her hair was all tucked under her cowl. Let's go ahead and take a look at her. Oh, back of the box just shows some nice little artwork of her holding her head and showing off her claws. I like the purple lipstick. I think it really helps with the whole purple theme. I actually think this costume ultimately looks better than the current version, but that's just me. McFarlane Toys includes with it for us, their little circular stand, which I originally saw with the Batman and the Batmobile set, and a collectible card featuring the same artwork from the back of the box. Real name, Selina Kyle. As an orphan growing up in the streets of Gotham City, Selina Kyle became a thief to survive. After perfecting her skills as a cat burglar, she now wears a cat suit to steal from the corrupt and rich as Catwoman. Unlike most criminals, Catwoman walks the line between good and evil, with occasional acts of heroism between heists. Catwoman is a master martial artist and acrobat. As stealthy as a ninja, she is also an expert at breaking and entering. Her bullwhip is her main weapon, alongside claws she uses to scale buildings and scratch enemies. She also flirts with her opponents to distract them, especially Batman. So let's get her out of the plastic. Not even sure why they had that there. And more tape. She's got some wicked high heels. Oh. That is an interesting position for the peg hole. I don't think it's going to work very well. I have the distinct feeling that actually, honestly, I'm almost afraid that putting it on the peg is going to cause the figure to break, because it looks like every time I try to put it on there, she's leaning back, and it looks like the hole might actually be angled in there. So I'll just set her aside for now. We'll get her whip out. I think this is the longest whip I have ever seen come with an action figure. And we have her additional clawing hands. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and, since we had a big fail with that stand, seriously, let's try bending her feet a little bit more. Okay, there we go. Man, even her gripping hands kind of look like they're ready to attack. But let's go ahead and let's go over the articulation now that we got the stand to work. Her head is on a ball joint. However, because of the hair, it doesn't get a lot of movement to it. It's also very stiff in this case. Although the head is kind of a rubbery feel to it. Looks like it may be glued in the back. Her face isn't too bad, although it doesn't capture the sexiness that we got from the artwork. In fact, she kind of looks like she's either mad or like she's getting ready to take a dookie. Articulation wise, we do have a butterfly joint that barely moves. I don't know if that's just design wise or if that's just it being stiff, but we do have up and down hinge. We can rotate it all the way around. There's a bicep cut here, which makes sense because the gloves are a different plastic from the rest of the arm, which is nice. I actually kind of prefer it when they can split stuff that way with the colors rather than having to paint stuff. She has a double jointed elbow. Her arm rotates, and she has the in and out wrist articulation. And one of the weird, maybe not weird, but one of the aspects of McFarlane Toys is that when you take the hands, it's not the entire joint that comes off, it's actually just the hand itself. So we can replace the hand here. Perhaps we can replace the hand here. There we go. Actually, I guess technically her wrist rotation could be any of it because the hand is actually jointed after the wrist articulation. So you can spin her hand around and just position it so that it can be an in and out or an up and down. All right, I like it. She's got the joint here at the waist area, or I guess that would be just above the ab area, which unlike a lot of the action figures that we've seen, usually the female figures actually have the cut right underneath the breasts. This one goes down a little bit further, and I think that does have a bit of a hindrance in the movement, because as you can see, even when we move it like that, I mean, we're already getting some wear on the plastic itself, which and that's kind of too bad. Of course, have the waist joint ball. That was a weird way to phrase that. McFarlane does the rubber diaper for the crotch area to hide some of the flaws. And even though they decided to make the breasts both very separate, prominent pieces, they did not do that with the butt cheeks. Kind of a shame, really, because, to be honest, most of the poses in this costume tended to be TNA poses in the first place. So we have kick out. Thanks to the diaper, she can actually kick out pretty far, high or pretty high. Forward, back, although now that makes that look really funky back there. So if you're going to pose her with her leg far back, make sure you're not showing her butt. We have, oh, I had assumed there was going to be a thigh swivel here, but apparently not. Is that actually paint? No. It's two different pieces of plastic because you can see the seam here and this here. Why does this not... I'm going to break this figure if I keep doing this. Alright, so even though it looks like there should be a thigh swivel, at least on mine, it does not do so. That's actually really disappointing. Maybe I'll have to try to heating her up later and see if that helps. She's got a double jointed knee. Seriously, why does that not swivel? We can spin at the ankle. We can hinge at the ankle, giving us some additional posability. And McFarlane does the toe articulation quite often in their figures, which I think is pretty cool feature, so that you know you can kind of get like that sort of a position where they're walking and not have it look too weird, right? Let's go ahead. I'm going to put her gripping hand back in here because we cannot forget that she also has her whip. The whip is apparently, let's see, whoops, almost 3 times her body length. I think the longest bullwhip that I've seen in person was, I think, 13 feet long. I'm seriously afraid I'm going to break that peg hole. I hate McFarlane stands. Well, that's not going to work either, apparently. All right. She's going to have to be heated up for multiple reasons. The fingers are very tight, so I'm not sure. Maybe the easiest way to try to get the whip in our hand is going to be to put it up there and then slide our hand down. I mean, take a look at the length on that sucker. She is definitely staying out of the way of people, but I imagine that that's still gonna make it hard because, like, even if she's like, say, let's go on the high side. Let's say she's 6 feet tall, probably is with the heels. That would make this whip roughly 18 feet long, and that just seems like that's way too long to be practical. As far as regular scaling goes, the McFarlane figures are, of course, a 7-inch scale compared to the standard 6-inch scale that a lot of the figures are currently being produced at. Probably so that when McFarlane made figures that people wanted, there we go, they couldn't just sit with their 6-inch figures and look like they belonged in that set. Overall, I think the figure is nice. I still don't trust that peg hole for the feet, and I'm not a big fan of the McFarlane stands just because they only have the one peg in them. And as I've said before, I don't like single peg stands because I feel like they don't hold the figure very well. I am kind of hoping that maybe with a little bit of hot water, we can get the whip to maybe not show the packing curves there. But it doesn't seem like there's a very good way to have her keep the whip either because it's so long that it's kind of impractical even for display purposes. Now, I have seen, like, if you watched the Batman Returns movie, I think that Catwoman actually wore the whip wrapped around herself when she wasn't using it. Get out of the way. Funny bit of information as well is Michelle Pfeiffer, when she played the role of Catwoman, actually learned how to use a bullwhip and did, I believe, most of the whip stunts herself. So I guess we could always display her this way. Although, being that this is Catwoman, I will probably have one of the clawed hands in place. But let's take a better look at these anyway, because they do have the wicked sharp claws at the end. Well, I guess technically not sharp because I'm not cutting myself on them, but they are pretty long and they look pretty nasty. I, however, do not believe that you could actually climb up a wall with these kind of fingertip things, but hey, somebody wants to prove me wrong, feel free. but you would need some kind of extremely sharp and strong metal and a lot of force to stick them into the cracks and, have them stay in the bricks on a building. So anyway, I think that'll conclude our look at the DC Comics Multiverse Catwoman figure from the Batman Nightfall comic series, or from her original Catwoman series in 1993. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Peace and love.